We're here with Christian Schindler from ITMF organization. Thanks a lot, Christian, to join us here. It's a really pleasure. And the objective here is to know a little bit more of your ideas and insights within the textile industry, which you know pretty well. So I would start right to the first question. Is it possible, in your opinion, to reconcile economic growth and sustainability in the textile industry, and how would that be possible?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation, well, also for the interesting topic and question, which are, of course, fundamental questions, right? Well, let me answer this like this. Our economy, the global economy in general, is facing a global transformation. Global because we are challenged with global problems and developments, namely with global warming. So climate change is not a local, it's not a regional, it's not a national or continental, it's a global problem. So it also needs global answers. Well, that's pretty much that everybody is aware of. And our world is working on that since 20, 30 years. Whereas in the beginning, the need for such actions was much less because the negative effects of global warming, I think, at least that's my personal perception, were not really visible for everyone. But nowadays, and I think this is not only because of media coverage of negative events all over the world and social media, I think everybody at home can see that global change is happening. Me, for example, I see it in the mountains. I see it in the summer, and I see it in the winter. I live in Switzerland, and I can see that the glaciers are melting at incredible speed. I notice it here in the drought season that we have sometimes, fortunately not last year, but in previous years, or in the winter time when there is not much snow or only at very elevated levels. And then there are floods. Yeah. So there are extreme weather events. So I think people are now much more aware of the challenges and the risks involved. And the whole world has started moving in the right direction towards more sustainable economic models. And this has accelerated in the last 5 years, I would say, plus minus, especially in Europe, with the European Commission also initiating a lot of regulation and discussions about regulations, especially with the Green Deal of the last EU Commission 5 years ago. Now we can talk a lot about, is there too much regulation? Is this going into the right direction? Is it too fast, too slow? But I think this is happening, and this is happening especially in our industry. The textile and apparel value chain was not really a regulated industry in the past. And this is now changing dramatically with regard to just name one important area, waste. So textile waste in the future will not be just thrown away and incinerated or landing on landfills, but it has to be recycled in one way or the other. And that brings me to the topic of circularity. And yes, it has to be reconciled, that transformation of our economy with the profitability of our industry, because no industry can do the transformation without also be profitable at the end. But to be profitable at the end, there needs to be a level playing field for everyone. And there needs to be also a regulation that is helping the industry to go into the right direction. And that's, literally a condition that is a prerequisite for the success of this transformation in a meaningful time frame, because we can't wait another 80 or 100 years, until the market mechanism works. Right. We need political guidance and setting of rules that help our industry to move in the right direction. So I don't want to say that we need intervention, and lots of subsidies all over the place. Of course, there needs to be incentives. Yes, I think every industry has seen that in one way or the others, but there needs to be a framework where our industry can work and be both sustainably and also profitable.
And do you think that the industry has understood this, the timing, this concept? They understand that there is this ongoing process right now?
I think so, especially the European industry has understood that. They are very well aware of what's happening in Brussels at a European level. Euratex is very much involved in the discussions, following the discussions, participating in the discussions. Euratex is the European Textile and Apparel Industry Federation, representing literally all European national associations in Brussels. So our industries in Europe are very well aware of what's going to happen in Brussels and what the impacts are, and they are working very hard in Brussels to make this a level playing field, not only for the European companies, but also for anyone else who wants to sell in the European market. So anybody who wants to export to Europe, to the European market, needs to follow the same rules. And that's easier said than done, because you have to control, you have to oversee, you have to enforce. And the enforcement part is, of course, the most difficult part. Are there enough checks when goods are imported to Europe at the border with regard to sustainable and social compliance requirements, so that we don't have products imported that are, not following the same rules that the European Union is setting for everyone. So that's a big challenge, and that's where everybody is working on. And the European Industry Federation, Euratex, is very much working on exactly that. So I think the industry is aware of the necessity to do something, but they are also aware that our industry, I mean now the European industry, needs a level playing field, so that this doesn't become an exercise where our industry, the European one, is destroyed because of unfair competition, because others importing or exporting to Europe are not following the same rules, and therefore have a competitive advantage in terms of cost and compliance.
Yep. All right. And could you give us some insights or success story, like or some case that you are acquainted of, that such as an industry, a person, or someone who's embracing this, and it's proving that it could be done, like balancing both growth and sustainability?
Well, at the moment, it's very difficult, because our industry is faced with a slowdown for the last 2 years, not only in Europe but worldwide. At the moment, all our members across the world on a global level are suffering from weak demand, high costs, and in our survey that we conduct every other month, the biggest concern to everyone is actually weak demand, but then followed by other problems like geopolitical tensions, high costs, whether it's logistics, energy, but also a lack of skilled workers. So therefore, to identify now one specific segment or company would be difficult. But there are many successful companies that are able to do both the right thing, the good thing, to become more sustainable, but also staying profitable. And what is required to do that? I think one observation can certainly be if these companies, have started early enough to go on this transition journey, and if they have identified, a market niche, certainly, that allows them to also get the right demand for what they offer. So what I want to say basically is there are niche markets where sustainability is the key factor to sell products, but these are niche markets. And if you are not active in a niche market, but more on a commodity market or commodity products, then it is very helpful, of course, if you have the resources, the financial resources to invest in technology that is sustainably valuable. Meaning, many companies nowadays have problem in investing in the latest technology because they don't know whether the payback time is too long and whether they will survive in the meantime. So that's one of the biggest challenges. So companies that have a good balance sheet, deep pockets, a long-term vision, and therefore also the time to wait for the return of investments, not only in 1, 2, or 3 years, but maybe have the possibility to wait 3, 4, 5 years for the return of investments. They will be successful because they invest in the latest technologies, which allows them to be also cost competitive in the medium and long term. And that's
in this regard, sorry, Chris, in this
yes,
regard,
please.
do you think these would automatically sort of exclude the small ones?
No, I think
Not necessarily.
no, not necessarily. If a small company is, well managed, if they have a strong balance sheet, and if it's very often family-owned companies, who don't have to look at the stock exchange for the valuation of their company, and produce short-term profits to keep the stock at a certain level.
Yeah, okay.
They are very often the ones who invest in the long-term success of their family-owned business. So no, I think this does not exclude any small and medium-sized companies by definition.
Okay. What about those companies, those industries who wants to adopt more sustainable practices? Where to start with? What would you suggest or recommend?
Well, I like to say that one key factor next to having the financial resources, right, whether from the banks or from the government, is also to have a network of partners in the supply chain. So this could be suppliers, this could be customers, this could be even, and very often, the brands and retailers. There are many, let me say a few at least, but hopefully many more in the future, brands and retailers that are not only demanding textile companies to be more sustainable, and that's it. They don't have any discussion about it, how to achieve that. But they actually actively support their suppliers to be more sustainable in the future. And that is very important to encourage this collaboration between manufacturers and brands and retailers, because it's not one company that can do that alone, and there's not one silver bullet for everybody. Everybody has a different background of where they come from, whether they are in Europe or in Asia, Africa, wherever these suppliers come from, and they need, customized solutions to become more sustainable. Some companies might have, still fossil fueled heaters. Other companies might lack sustainable energy, renewable energy resources, but can overcome that problems with the help of partners, and so on and so forth. So what I want to say is there needs, collaboration across the value chain to increase the possibility and the probability to actually implement more sustainable production sites and solutions that are available. I know, for example, that I was at Textile just 2 weeks ago, and that's maybe one nice example. And there was a presentation by IKEA, and IKEA said, they are asking their suppliers to become fossil fuel free, so no coal on their production sites by the end of next year. And they have announced that already 4 years ago. And they don't just ask them to become, coal free by a certain time, but they actually talk to them, support them, ask them, and are sourcing from them, which helps, of course, these companies to make long-term calculations to factor in, the possible investment costs, the possible technology selection, and how to overcome the challenges to become more sustainable. So it's a very collaborative approach by IKEA, and I would like to, to see more of that, of such collaboration in our industry. Coming from the brands and retailers who are key to our industry, because if they are partners and not just, transactional partners, but collaborative partners, you can achieve much more in a much shorter period of time.
Definitely. Yeah. And last but not least, how do you imagine that sustainability would have changed the whole industry, textile industry, within the 10 years? Suppose we're in 2035 and looking back in the last, with all that happening, all that so many things and challenges, how do you picture the scene by then?
Very good question. I think in 10 years time we are going to have a much more circular textile economy. Circularity is a very important topic, both on the regulation front, but also something that brands and retailers are asking. So the textile to textile recycling will become more and more important. And at the moment, there is not much yet technology available that allows, big numbers of textile recycling to actually happen. But there is a lot of research going on, a lot of investments going on into both mechanical and chemical recycling of textiles. And this technology will become more mature in the coming years. It will be scaled up by many different players. There's a lot of competition in this area. So I envision that in 10 years' time, the share of recycled fibers will increase tremendously, from textile to textile recycling. So I don't mean, PET bottle recycling to textile fibers, but really waste, textile waste, pre-consumer, but especially also post-consumer textile waste that will be recycled. And hopefully it will be recycled like we recycle today paper, cartons, aluminium, glass. It's not like this needs to be invented first, the concept of recycling. It's there already since quite some time, but nobody was asking for it. and the technology is about to be developed. And we have at ITMF, we have a startup award. And many of these startups that are applying for our startup awards are actually coming from this recycling industry. And this is very encouraging to see. And I hope that in 10 years' time, if we sit together again, we can talk about some well-known companies, both in Europe and in other regions of the world that are doing good business with recycling.
Do you think artificial intelligence could help in this process?
Yes, very much so. Recycling is also about data, and one of our problems is, of course, to identify the textile waste. Is it polyester? Is it polyamide? Is it cotton? Whenever you collect textile waste, you need to identify what it is so that you can process the textile waste in the best possible way. So you need to identify the fibers, and in this process, in the sorting of the textile waste, AI can certainly help a lot in the future, identifying in a much easier way and in a speedy way the composition of textiles when it's collected and sorted.
Okay. I see we reached our 20 minutes. It goes fast.
That was fast, yes.
Yeah, very interesting topic though. So we could be spending hours here, definitely. But any last remarks, overall considerations?
Yeah, I think it's a very important topic, and I think I just want to highlight again, two things. I think circularity needs, to be center stage in the future. So every company should look at circularity because there will be demand for circular products in terms of either reused products. So the reuse market, the second-hand market will be a big market, which has implications for our industry, but then also the recycled material as a feedstock for future production. And the second one is really collaboration along the textile value chain. Companies have to invest both in hardware and software and into know-how to prepare themselves for this new age, let me call it, of sustainability and circularity. And to have skilled workers is actually one of the problems of our industry in the future. So companies that can offer attractive jobs and can therefore get skilled personnel in their factories, in their companies, certainly have an advantage going forward. So it's also not only a technological problem that we have to overcome, but also a retention problem for skilled workers in our industry. And that's not limited to Europe. That's actually a challenge for any country in the world, whether you look to Turkey, to China, to Brazil, to the US, to India. The lack of skilled workers and personnel staff is one of the biggest problems also in the future.
All right then, Christian, excellent, and I really thank you again for this excellent chat, and hope we see each other in the future.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, and thank you again for the opportunity, and hope to see you again soon, also in person. Thank you.